Hi everyone, and welcome to our Parent Information Night for the Kid Empowerment Smashing Ants program. I appreciate all of you that have chosen to leave your warm, cozy house and brave the potentially bad weather to join us tonight. And for those of you that could not make it, I'm glad you're able to join us on video. This is what I thought we would do tonight, and you guys can nod or whatever, and let me know if you think that this will meet your needs or not. Okay? Okay. So what I thought I'd do is give you we just have a little bit of logistics that I can share with you guys. Explain a little bit about our philosophy, how this all came about, the what and the why, that kind of thing. Talk a little bit about our concern for physical and emotional safety for the children. Give you a little feel for our schedule, a day in a life, as in actually really an hour, but you know what I mean. Talk to you a little bit more about ants in particular. And then share with you a few of my thoughts and or tips about parenting that will help you, I hope, decrease the chance of ants happening in your house. All right, so real quickly, the logistics. It's a little confusing. For those children that have signed up through Parks and Recs, there are 2 waiver forms, okay? Because we each have our own. For those that have joined through PTA, we have 1, and it's just ours. We do need that back in order for your children to attend. So if you haven't done that, already, please, fill that out and put it in your kid's backpack and have them bring it in. And please don't have them give it to their teacher. Have them give it to their Smashing Ants facilitator. Okay? Thank you. Our very last week, that's going to be what we call our closing ceremony and an open house. And the parents are invited for the last 40 minutes. So that gives the kids about 20 minutes to practice one more time before you guys show up. And you will be getting emails off and on to help keep you informed as to what's going on throughout the weeks, okay? But please do know that you do have this book. So your children would benefit from teaching you about Smashing Ants, because the best way to learn is to teach. And they get to help the whole family start learning how to smash ants. So to me, it's one of those like triple wins, right? Smashing Ants? Feel free to pull up a chair. Okay. Okay, so that's all I really have about logistics, unless anyone has questions about logistics.
Is that book supposed to come back and forth, or is there another
Yes,
one?
please.
Okay.
This needs we prefer it to stay in the children's backpack, so that way they're guaranteed to have it. So if you pull it out for to teach, just make sure it goes right back in again, and then they always have it. We're filming this, it'll be on YouTube, so you'll be able to catch up with what you've missed. Okay, but we appreciate you coming out in this terrible weather.
I'm not from these areas.
Okay, oh gosh. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to our thoughts about this program. To us, this is a very special program, and it doesn't exist anywhere. And it has come from the bottom of my heart. I am the creator of the program, and it has evolved over time, and it started out with what I wanted to do for myself and for my children. When I decided to have children, I wanted to be the best me I could be and the best parent I could be. And so I did a lot of research. I didn't want to do the same thing as my parents. I didn't want to do the opposite of my parents. I really wanted to to try and do things that were more known, more apt to work than not. And I also wanted to be the best me. Well, in my search for being the best me, I learned about all of these really neat things that I'm like, why don't we teach this to children? Why do we wait until they're adults to learn this information? And a big part of it was about Smashing Ants. It wasn't worded that way. That's, you know, my creative twist to it. But the philosophies and the tools and the strategies, they all come from adult things that I have learned that I chose to adjust and make it so that kids can get it sooner than later. So this isn't about kids being bad or parents trying to fix them or anything like that. This really came from my heart about how can I help children with success and self-esteem both. So every single strategy that's shared in this program can be used for either one or both, whatever suits your or your child's needs. It's not specific to either one. I double check that every time. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to add to that is that one of the things that I came across when I was growing up was that, and I noticed that teachers, there are teachers, especially when I was growing up, very much exhibited bullying behavior. And kids on the playground, the bus, you know, whatever. And just to be honest, and kids can be mean, you know, not intentionally. They just haven't honed their social skills enough that they've learned things and everything else. And there's a lot of disappointments that go on in life. And one of the things that I learned growing up, what came to me, was that I could not control the outside world. That I would benefit from empowering myself. What can I do? And how can I talk to myself? And what can I do to ensure my success and my comfort level and self-esteem? So that's also what this program's, the foundation of it and what it's all about as well. Okay, now, before I go any further, does everyone get where I'm coming from along those lines? Does anyone have a question about that? Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you guys as parents. Because I have this belief that our children each have their own brain and they're the pilot. And we as parents can do whatever we can to influence our children to get them from where they are to being these magnificent adults. But ultimately speaking, they're going to make the decision if they're going to listen to you or not, they're going to behave or not, and everything else. And so, what can we do to provide our children with the tools, and what can parents do to help facilitate a quicker than slower growth process? And one of the things in my mind is that each child's going to grow at their own rate. So I look at this program as planting seeds, okay? And so there's no guarantee that any one child is going to be faster or slower than the next child in taking this and going with it. We do whatever we can when we do the program, and we have it set up to help motivate the children to want to learn it. So we teach it to them in terms of what's in it for them. We ask them, do you want your life to be easier? Do you want your life to be more fun? Do you want to feel comfortable with yourself in uncomfortable situations? Great, because guess what? You have that power. And we're going to teach you how to tap into that power and utilize it to create your own success and comfort level. Pretty cool, huh? And we go from there. And we do it with a game and metaphorically, you know, with kid empowerment, with the marshmallow game. And everything we do, as you saw in the videos, that we try to do it fun and playful. We try to do that. We do have activities. Everything's very experiential to make it so that it's easy for them to learn. We try to do everything or most things whole body learning and experiential. And that then it's visually, enjoyable. So one, it's easy to learn, and two, they want to learn it. And three, as time goes on, they start realizing how this really can help them in their life. And so they want to use it and do it. And I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Dorothy. I introduced myself twice and I didn't even introduce Dorothy. I think she was wise enough to introduce herself as everyone came along. Dorothy is one of our seasoned kid empowerment facilitators. And so Dorothy can testify to what I'm saying as being, that's what they've been trained and what they're doing as they're doing the program. Or if she disagrees, I am very open for her to go like this and for her to share her perspective if she sees it differently. Our big thing is about being honest and coming from the heart, and so I know she feels comfortable being honest and sharing her perspective even if it's different than mine. Right?
Absolutely. No
Okay.
shame, no blame.
That's right, and I'm not actually going to go there. I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, so I talked to you a little bit about, by doing this, the variety of the activities. So we try to do, like one arts and craft type of activity. We do some of the little physical things. I didn't get to this. Usually we start earlier. I'll start doing a little bit of the beach ball up game. So we have a little, you can see that we do a little bit of something physical. This helps you guys wake up after a long day. So thank you guys for participating and joining in. Very cool. Okay, so, and then we do, you name it, we try to, do it, we hit on hopefully at least some type of activity that your child would enjoy doing. We do the cup stacking, so a little bit of that, something by myself, but which takes some precision and right and left hand, right and left brain type activity as well. So what I ask of the children, or if your children come home and say, well, that activity wasn't for me or something, help them to realize that we try to do that variety so that even if this particular activity is you're not so crazy about, hopefully some of the others you will be, though. So we try to meet at least some of everybody's needs. Okay, and if you believe that we're not hitting any, again, feel free to let us know so that we can adjust. So we do, because this program really is all about for your children, you and your children, not us. So we're really happy and open for that. Okay, safety. We take that extremely seriously. We think of safety as physical, emotional, and the room safety. And it's all spun from the topic of respect. That it's okay if you don't, if you think something that is not so pleasant, just keep it in your head, just not come out of your mouth. Okay, so unless you have something that's kind and respectful, please don't say it. And so that's how we ensure, one of the ways we ensure the children's emotional safety. We also have that whatever's said in our room stays in our room. I don't word it that way, but for you guys. Except if you want to talk, you're welcome to always talk to your parents. But someone might share something like, I'm afraid of the dark, or something that they felt comfortable saying in our room, but they don't want everyone hearing it outside in the hallways of the classroom, in the hallways of the schools, whatever. So we ask that everyone agrees that we don't share anything with anyone except our parents. So it's a safe place. The way that what we have set up to ensure that the children are responsible for their behavior and the facilitators are responsible for leading the class in this program is that we have a reward system. So we have a reward jar that if they follow our 8 class rules, if you're curious, they're on page 1 right here, and they're all safety and respect, that's all they are. They choose to follow these, then they get to pick a prize from the prize jar as long as they have to pick a prize that the parents allow them to have. okay? So there are some candies in there, but there's also plenty of stickers, poppers, bouncy balls, you name it, tattoos, it's in there. So that way, we're reinforcing what we're teaching them, which is that they have choices. They can choose to behave in a way that results in, ends up resulting in something that they like, or they can choose behavior that results in something that they might not like. The choice is theirs, though. And we come from the philosophy, and this is what the teachers, facilitators are trained in. A big part of the training part of the training is this information. But I'm going to also say more of the training is on ensuring that we're all on the same page, and that is no shame, no blame, no fear program. Okay? And it's very important to me that every child is treated with respect and kindness, and we can help them want to behave appropriately and follow our safety rules without shame, blame, intimidation, or anything like that, okay? But for the most part, we don't have to do it. For the most part, most of the kids are into what we're doing and are focused on what we're doing, and it's just not even an issue. But that's the answer to why parents sometimes say, well, why are you bribing my kids with a prize? And it's not about bribing, it's about PBIS, what a lot of the schools have put in place, positive integration behavioral support. And that is people, even adults, work towards a reward or goal, getting paid. Most people don't work for free. That is the ultimate, the bottom line reward is that they get paid. And the same thing with the children. That with the children are less apt to sit on top of themselves and want and be conscious of following the rules if there's nothing in it for them. When there's something in it for them, like a trip to the prize jar, then all of a sudden they're more apt to police, if you will, themselves. And that way the teachers, facilitators do not have to. Because, that's the last thing I'm sure you guys want our facilitators to do, is spend the entire time trying to get the kids to behave. Doesn't it make more sense that the kids try to get themselves to behave? Because it is, it's a long day. They're at school all day long, and then even though this is an enjoyable and interactive, it's not like kickball or Legos, It really is a class. So hopefully a fun class, but it's still a class. So it's important for the children to be aware of their own behavior, so that we can, and the facilitators can focus on sharing this great information with them. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Having had a lot of questions about it in the past, that's why I am going to this level of detail, so that hopefully it pre-answers your questions about it. But if it doesn't, I will be here cleaning up at the end, and I'll be happy to talk with all of you more, or anyone who has some concern about it afterwards, okay? And or you guys have my phone number, feel free to give me a call. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to move on now to basically how the class is structured. The hour, I should say, is structured. Okay, so now I'm not going to say that it's always in this order, because the order is based on the topics for the most part. And then so one particular topic might need it a certain way versus another topic. Yet, all in all, this is high level what we do per topic, is that there's going to probably be about a 10-minute experiential activity with the topic. We have a 5 to 10-minute movie or cartoon that you guys saw a little taste of. I say 5 to 10 minutes because the cartoon's usually about, I don't know, we try to keep them short to 3 to 5 minutes. closer to 3 than the 5. And then we have another 3 minutes or so, which I think you also saw, which is the discussion questions. The idea behind the discussion questions is to ensure that no matter who your facilitator, and the same with the cartoon, no matter who your facilitator is, your children are all getting the same thing. So everyone's seeing the same cartoon, so everyone's getting the exact same lesson. And I'm doing the voiceover and doing the little PowerPoint of the discussion so that everyone's getting the same discussion, and then we pause and the kids answer the questions. The idea really behind this discussion, because the children are young, they're elementary school kids, is not for them to elaborate and really think about and ponder the topic too much. It's really just to ensure that they gained an understanding of the key points of the lesson. So it's really more of a reinforcement for that age. Now, when we do camp, when we have the middle school kids, then we get into a little bit more of a discussion, a little bit more thought-provoking type of thing going on, but not for the elementary school kids. Again, we see the elementary school situation as being two things. One, planting seeds, and the other one actually is to be proactive. The children might not have these ants right now. They may not have these situations right now. But the fact that they're learning these tools, these strategies, these concepts, these awarenesses, what that does is when something starts happening and the ant starts trying to come in, they go, whoa, wait a minute, that's an ant, I'm going to stop it. And then what happens, which is so cool about this, is that instead of being like us adults, or I'll speak for myself, where I have this huge ant collection that I'm trying to get rid of, they have prevented them as they're showing up, and so they don't have to work so hard at trying to get rid of this large ant collection. They really have circumvented them as they're trying to come up. So it really helps minimize the chance of ants, or the amount of ants they have as they go through life. Okay, so they get 5 to 10 minutes of the, and I say that's in total, of the lesson and the reinforcement slideshow. Then we also have a 10 to 20 minute, depending on the thing, experiential activity that enables them to use what they've learned. So, and again, all of this varies depending, but try to pick a topic out at random. Okay, how about QPS, which is one of our leadership topics. It's quick problem solving. So basically what we would do, just to give you a visual of what I'm talking about, is that we would give them a problem to solve. You're in a large group, we put them in a large group, basically the group, and we say choose a leader. So that's the problem to solve. They have to decide who the leader's going to be. And so they have the experience of how they typically do it. And I'm going to tell you, having watched it, a lot of times the children will do rock, paper, scissors. And it's not a quick way of resolving, and a lot of kids don't think it's fair because, one, it's not quick because you can only do 2 at a time, and it typically isn't fair because if the person doesn't put their hand out at the same time, it's a mess. And that's okay because they're at least having the experience of what they normally do, which then motivates them to want to learn about what we share with them in the way of quick problem solving. And then what we do is we have all these, I'm sorry I didn't think I was going to use that one as the example, a baggie full of tools to help them with quick problem solving and which one would work quickly and fairly. The idea behind it is quick and fair in doing it. So if you wanted to choose teams, what would be a quick way? Maybe a deck of cards, red and black. If you have a lot of people that want to be it or first or whatever, then maybe they could roll a dice and whoever has the largest number, or maybe again the cards and who has the largest number or the smallest number, whatever. We go through a lot of that. So then they're now taught tools. And then we'll give them some situations that they'll have 2 minutes to resolve. So now they're using their tools based on what they've learned. So that would be like the full circle of one topic. And if it's an ant one, it would be, or if it's anything that can be done by a cartoon movie or slideshow, we do it that way. That particular one, it's best suited for the teacher because it has a lot of visuals, so the teachers have been trained on how to do it, and they do that one. Does that make sense? And then what we also do is somewhere in there where it seems to make sense, we slip in a little 5-minute game. And that might be something like we just did, which is the beach ball up game. Or, you mentioned cup stacking, file card tower. We have several of those. The teachers have them on them. So depending on the mood of the class, so if the kids come in and they're kind of like this, and they're looking really tired from the day, then they might do the beach ball up game. The kids might be really, really full of energy, and so they might do the cup stacking that gets them to be a little bit more focused. So they have tools to help create a climate that's best suited for the children and what we're doing. So that's the gist of, and we typically get a few, depending, topics in a day. Okay, so does everyone feel like they have a pretty good picture of what that hour's like? It goes by really fast. The kids are all like, time's up already? Because we just go from one thing to the next and they're all fun and they're different. And they get to put together some sort of skit or presentation on one of the topics that they will be then sharing with you on that last day. For those that have ants about getting up in front of a group, we don't force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. We do invite them to still pick a group and to participate. They can be the director. They can, talk about it, help brainstorm, whatever. They don't have to actually, but if they want to smash their ants, they can. What typically happens is that they end up wanting to. By the time they're in the group and they're playing and practicing with the group, that they end up wanting to do it. And a lot of times those children end up having a big role, talking a lot, and doing great. So it's wonderful to see that. And there's once in a while the child that doesn't, and he doesn't, or she doesn't, and that's okay too. I'm going to move on now to ants. I made the assumption that you all know what ANT stands for, and but for those who don't, it's an acronym that's it's automatic negative thoughts. Now we're in the process of changing it because I thought negative was too negative, and it really doesn't describe what we're all about. It really is not supportive. There's thoughts that don't support you, that don't move you in a positive direction. So they're not supportive. I'll talk to you a little bit more about ants. I've heard from a chunk of parents that they think that ant smashing is trying to get your kids not to be so emotional. And it's not. I have this belief that every person is entitled to feel however they feel. I can tell you that when we help them with their thoughts, and when I do this with adults, their belief system, we can dig deep based on those thoughts and come up with some really big underlying beliefs, that if you were to have a different thought process, that would make for a different feeling, which would then make for a different action and results. But if you think that you're going to be focusing on trying to control, getting your child or yourself to change your feelings, that's really hard to do. And it's really, from what I've been told, not healthy. So at the point that a person's having an ant and they're full of feelings, it is what it is at that point. Does that make sense? So the thought thing comes before the feelings, not after. So what we're trying to do is help the children to have different thoughts and or even beliefs, but we don't talk to them in those terms, but that's what we're kind of helping them to do. So therefore, the feelings are more along the lines of positive power than ants. And then therefore, then the actions and the results will fall into place. Go into some more parenting thoughts and tips. How am I doing time-wise? Oh, that's it. 8:15. We're almost done, running out of time, and I do want to leave time for additional questions. And so at this point, if you have any questions and you want to write them down on a slip of paper versus raise your hand, feel free to do that. And in the interim, I'll continue. What else did I want to share with you? So the biggest thing, because I implied it but out and out didn't say it, is that it's very important that kids smash their own ants, not their parents. So whenever you hear an ant, and this is so huge, because otherwise I feel like I'm not doing what I set out to do, which is to help kids. If the parents say, oh, well, you took smashing ants, so every time you hear your kid say something negative, you say, well, that, so the kid said, I'm so mad. Oh, no, you're not. You're happy, remember? Or I'm so frustrated. No, you're not. You're feeling good. Or this is stupid. No, it's not. It's smart. I can't do it. Yes, you can. If you are the one who's saying the opposite. Let me ask you guys. Have you ever tried, I'll be honest, I'll raise my hand. I'll give you my honest answer also. How many of you have tried the strategy where your kid said something negative and you've said the opposite to them? Admit it, come on, we've all done it. No? Yeah? You have? Okay. I was going to say, I know very few people who haven't tried that. I know I tried it too. Have you noticed? I'll tell you what, raise your hand, so keep your hands up this time if you have tried it. Now, I'm going to ask you to put your hands down if it actually worked. Yeah. We try it, but it doesn't work. What actually ends up happening, especially if they're full of emotion, they really have a big ant, here's what happens. They say, I can't do this, this is too hard. It's not me, I can't do it. And the parent says, oh yes you can do it, yeah, it's easier, you can do it, just try. What happens is that the human being really likes to believe what they say, even if it doesn't suit them well. So, what ends up happening is the child says, I can't do it. The parent says, yes, you can. Well, therefore, now the kid wants to prove themselves right. So now they're going to come up with all the different reasons why they can't do it, right? Well, I tried it before, I wasn't able to do it. Don't you know that, I'm having trouble memorizing my math facts. And now they're coming up with a million different reasons proving to you why they can't do it. So now and guess what? What you say to yourself is what you're more apt to believe than what somebody else says to you. So now what's happening is the child is taking this belief and it's starting to grow roots. And it's really, because the child's going to dig their heels in to prove themselves right. Okay? So now, in the parents' desire to help their child and prove to them that, yeah, I believe in you, I think you're great, yes, you can do it, they're actually facilitating the exact opposite. Does that make sense? So if instead, if the child says, I can't do this, I'm so terrible at math, you say, wow, I can see how frustrated you are. And that's it. And the kid goes, oh, I'm not crazy, math is hard for me. Okay, that may be it for now. It may be, once a child feels like they've been heard, that's what happens sometimes. they step up. And then all of a sudden they go, well, actually, I did learn my 2 tables pretty quickly. And I am, and all of a sudden they start growing roots in the way you want them to grow roots. They start stepping up and start maybe coming up with proof of the opposite because they're not arguing with you about it. And they felt like they've been heard. Does that make sense? If that's not the case, then later when they're feeling okay, you can sit down with them and have a conversation with them. You know what? I noticed that when you were doing your math homework, you were getting really frustrated. And I feel badly that it was frustrating you so. Yeah, math is really hard for me. I can see that, that you're having your challenges with it. Yeah, that's our friendly stink bug. Our neighborhood stink bug, I should. So then you can say, well, you know what? Now that you're feeling a little better, I wanted to share with you a strategy that may help you. I have found that when I'm really frustrated when I'm doing something, that I need a 5-minute break. And sometimes I can do it after I've walked away. So one strategy is just to set a timer for 5 minutes, do something else, and then come back to it. And you may see it differently. And maybe it won't be so frustrating then. Sometimes it takes sleeping on it. And then the next day it comes to you. Sometimes it's asking for help, but not when you're frustrated, of course, once you're feeling better. So now that you're feeling better, would you like to sit down and show me the problem, and maybe we can work our way through it? So now you're facilitating your problem solving, you're coming up with ideas, and the child is more open to hearing it. But not at a point where they're arguing with you. And you're not convincing them that they're good at math. What you're doing is you're giving them tools to be less frustrated going forward and giving them some strategies so that they can work their way through it. Does that make sense? And that works with pretty much a lot of stuff, if not all. That kind of process and philosophy. Varying degrees depending on the situation, the child, and everything else. But that's just an example. So when the child is full of ants, or has an ant, try to resist smashing it for them. Even if they choose not to smash it. They choose not to smash it, again, that's their choice. Later when they grow ears, that could be a question. Oh, I wondered if you might have felt better if you had chosen to smash that ant. I wonder what ant smasher might have worked. I wonder what you could have said to yourself. Oh, yeah, you could have said, I can, and then do it. Great, which is maybe we can come up with a game or practice that so the next time it happens, you're more apt to smash it. So a way for parents to be proactive may seem like I'm teaching you to be reactive, but actually not. It's allowing this moment to happen, not trying to change it, allowing it to play out. Because again, we're past the thought process. We're in the feelings and actions and results place. Somewhere in there. Some mess in there, we've come across it. It might be, unfortunately, at the results end, when they've taken their homework and crumpled it and thrown it across the room. We didn't, but somewhere in that feelings, actions, and results, that's where we came across our child. But what we can do is love them through it so that we can then be proactive and they're more apt to want to talk to us about it because we're on their team. And then when they have grown ears, no matter how long it takes, we can talk to them about either their thoughts and or strategies to help them create a different belief. So not once am I talking to them about the thoughts that they stink at math, but I'm helping to recreate the belief that they're okay at math. Math might be hard for them, but they can do it. It just might take more practice for them. It might not be their strongest subject, but they can do it. Does that make sense? Okay, but I think our time is up. Questions? Yes.
I have a question. One of the ants that was up there in the video in the beginning was I'm bored. So
Mhm.
especially in light of the winter weather and not having the outside, and those kinds of things as an option, do you have any suggestions for dealing with that?
Okay, so the
particular ant?
question was, what if we hear that on board ant? Again, at the time the emotions are high, is not the time to deal with it. But if the emotions aren't high, then there's a couple of things. One, they learned in the very first week what you put in is what you get out. So if you're doing something and you're bored, then there's a good chance they haven't given it their all and really got into it. That makes sense. So if reading this book is boring, maybe it's because they haven't chosen to visualize what they're reading that makes it feel like they're watching a movie. If it's that they don't have something to do, and I'm going to say, we define an ant as it hurts you. It gets in the way of your success or gets in the way of your self-esteem. Not that it's a negative statement. So if I'm bored is that I have nothing to do, that's not an ant. It's not getting in the way of their success, it's not getting in the way of their self-esteem. If they're sitting here and you're sitting here and you're saying you're bored, it may be getting in the way of your success, it may be getting in the way of your self-esteem, and you may choose to participate more, and then you might not find it boring. So any one statement could or could not be an ant, and they're taught that with a very specific example of a statement that it was a trick question, it could or could not be an ant. So I'm bored, as in it's the winter time, there's nothing to do, it's not an ant. But to answer your question from a parenting perspective, is that at a time they're not bored, it's a good idea then to create a game of coming up with ideas on a piece of paper. So let's play the game 10 ideas. What are 10 fun inside activities? Doing a puzzle, playing a board game, playing cards, dancing to music, blah, blah, blah. And then they can put them on a slip of paper and fold it up, put it in a little bag or jar or whatever, and they can pick one. And whatever it is, they do it. Now, if they're doing the activity and they're saying it's boring, then it may be an ant. What you put in is what you get out. If you're going like this and you're dancing, but if you put on some music and you're really getting into it and you're really having fun with it, chances are you're not going to be bored. Did that help?
Yeah, thanks for clarifying how that one fit in as an ant.
Thank you for asking it so I could. Anyone else? Okay? Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you guys.